China has loads of amazing cities, historic sites, natural wonders to visit, and we really love it. And as someone who spent 9 months in China, I really strongly encourage any adventurous traveller to go. But if you're coming from a Western perspective, then you might find yourself in a few confusing situations when you first arrive. You might see things that you don't really understand. There might be some cultural shocks. So in this video I'm going to talk through some of the things that surprised us that might surprise you as well, so you're thoroughly prepared for them when you get to China. Hi, welcome to Slightly Off the Beaten Track, and if it's your first time here, then welcome to this channel. So one of the things that you might find surprising, which has happened mostly to us in China, is that people will point and stare at you all the time, every day. Even in big cities this happens quite a lot. You go to Beijing and Shanghai, it will happen as well. One time we were in Shanghai a few years ago, when just in a museum like everybody else. We were having a little sit down and a mother comes up to Danny and I, hands us her baby who does not want to be with us. It is so upset, and she's just taking pictures with us, and it felt very awkward. But the lady was really excited to have her child pictured with Westerners. Another thing that might surprise you is not all hotels accept foreigners. If you go through a booking site to book hotels, then it should tell you on the hotel whether or not, on the website, whether or not they accept foreigners. Partly this is to do with because when you arrive in China, wherever you stay, the hotel is under an obligation to register you with the police. They do that by taking your passport details and then sending it through on a computer. However, some places might not have strong enough internet, they might not have the links with the local police station, and they won't accept foreigners, so always double check. I think it's safe to say that, as anywhere in Asia, in China, Asian traffic rules apply. Don't be surprised if you see a family of 5 on a motorbike. It's completely normal. Mum, dad, 3 kids, baby strapped to the chest. It's not strange. I don't think it's strictly within the law, but we find that some laws in China are just suggestions rather than cold hard rules, so be prepared to see some very surprising things on the road. I think one thing that you have to talk about with China is toilets. In big places, in tourist places, you will find a mixture of squat toilets and Western style toilets. However, don't expect to have toilet roll. So when you're traveling around China, always buy yourself some toilet roll and carry it around with you wherever you are. Also, the quality of toilets really varies depending where you are. Big cities will have loads of public toilets all over the place, but you can't guarantee how nice they're going to be. The places that have the nicest toilets, and I always try and find if you're out in public, is in shopping centres. They're cleaned all the time. They normally have toilet roll. They feel like you're in a fancy 5-star hotel, so that is the place to find the toilets. Also, sometimes you might find that if you go into the toilet after somebody else, a Western toilet, you might find little footprints on the toilet seat. Or if you don't, there might be a sign on the toilet wall saying, "Don't stand on toilet." That's because a lot of people are used to using squat toilets, and so people will squat on the toilet seat. So just keep an eye out for that. I think another surprise that you might find is that even in large cities, even in Beijing, even in Shanghai, the level of English spoken isn't very high, which is very surprising. I think young people are often the people who will speak English. If you're staying in a big hotel, then your staff will probably speak English. However, we've been to big hotels when we were in Xinjiang, in Urumqi. I'll put a little thing up here, where the staff didn't speak a word of English, and it was quite a nice hotel, so it's worth just to be prepared for that might happen. What we found really useful is pre-downloading Google Translate with the Mandarin language, and so when you're out and about, if you don't have data, then you can quickly type stuff into your phone and translate. Also, I would recommend, if you can and if you have time, learn a little bit of Mandarin. I speak a little bit of Mandarin, and it's really helped out with us traveling, especially in the smaller places, and it's a really basic level, but people really appreciate the effort. One that you might be kind of aware of, you've probably heard about, is the regulation of Chinese internet. So if you are in China and you're trying to go on Facebook, if you're trying to go on the BBC, if you're trying to go on Google, none of these things will work unless you buy yourself a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and basically when you turn on the software you can pretend you're in another country, and that will stop the Chinese internet blocking whatever you want to go on. We use ExpressVPN, which has been very good for us, and when that doesn't work we have also been using NordVPN. Generally one or the other will work in China. They are both things that you pay for, but if you're going for a long time to China, or that if you heavily rely on the internet, then I would advise that you go for it. We found it really useful, especially when we were in China for 3 months, and we did use the internet quite a lot. One of the things that has changed massively in China since we were last there in 2012 is how people pay. Cash used to be king when we were over here last time, but now people are all paying on their phones. They have an app called WeChat, and that has people's bank accounts attached to it, and you scan a barcode and money is taken out of your account. And everybody, and I mean everybody, uses these. You can use it in a shopping centre, you can use it in a restaurant, but even people, old ladies selling oranges on the streets use this, which is incredible. As a foreigner you can't use this unless you have a Chinese bank account, but it's amazing watching people paying by this method. It's really, really bizarre. It feels like they've completely bypassed credit cards and debit cards. They don't bother with that. It's gone straight to mobile pay, which is really interesting. This one shouldn't be a surprise. It's that the food in China, Chinese food in China, is so much better than anything you've had at home. Like, seriously. If you've grown up in America or the UK or kind of anywhere in Europe, most of the Chinese food you'll have had will be Cantonese style food. It will be stuff that people in Guangzhou and maybe Hong Kong eat. But China's a massive country, and it has 8 official cuisines all around the country, and depending on where you are, the food is so different. The noodles that you get in the north are incredible, and then you get mostly rice dishes in the south, and they're completely different too. The flavors are different, the spices, the herbs that they use are different, and the quality of the food is just so good. Now when I go back home and I eat Chinese food, in most places, in a buffet or a takeaway, whatever, it's just not that good. So that's another thing that might surprise you, just how good and how different the food is. I've just had to move a little because the light was really terrible and it was really distracting, and it probably wasn't very good for you either. So this time around we went to, I think, 6 or 7 different provinces all around China. So we were right in the center of China. We went right to the west of China, we went to the south of China, we were in the mountains, and all of these places geographically are just so different. In the west you've got deserts and these massive plains of sand where there's nothing for miles and miles and miles, and then you go somewhere else and you've got these lush green tropical feeling, a bit like here, and that we got that in Yan'an, which is on the border of like Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam, and that is just really different to when you go to the east and you go to Huangshan Mountain, and the mountains are completely different to what they do in Gansu province and in Xinjiang province. And that is something that we really love, because you just can't get bored there. One thing that we found hilarious the first time we came to China, and it still happens now, is naked baby bums. Yeah, by that I mean that it's not uncommon for you to be walking down the street, whether it's in the city or in the countryside, and see a toddler walking down the road with its family, and it has a slit right down the middle of its trousers at the bottom. And the purpose of that is so that they can very quickly use the toilet if they need to. And that's just something that you get used to seeing. What was amazing is the first time we arrived in China, it was January, and we were in Beijing, and Beijing in January gets to -10 degrees, and it's cold, and it snows, and it's windy, and we couldn't go out without any gloves on, and there were naked baby bums there. And I don't know how they managed it. Spitting and smoking is some of the things that the government are trying to tackle now, actually, because I think it's very unattractive to Westerners and to tourists. But when you're walking around the town in China, it's really, really noticeable. And then the other thing is the you get a lot of that. It's quite polluted in lots of the cities. People get bad chests, and the thing to do to sort that out is to spit on the street. It sounds a bit gross. Yeah, it doesn't stop getting gross, but it's just part and parcel of travelling around China. And there's 2 in 1 here, is if you're in China, get used to the queues. And when I say queues, I mean lack of queues. If there is a spot in a queue, even the tiniest space, and the person in front of you, you've left that space with the person in front of you, don't do it, because someone will assume you don't want that space. You obviously don't want to be there as badly as they do, and they will come and take that space. So get used to having a bit less personal space in China. I've been known to tell a few people off for pushing in front of me. I've said, excuse me, I was the first person here, and thankfully it's actually always been taken really well. I've had men kind of go, oh yeah, okay, you're right, where I was maybe expected to be told off for being maybe a little bit aggressive, but it does work. But also do expect that sometimes the queues will be jumped, and sometimes there's not much you can do about it either. But to go with that, I think people then, from that kind of behaviour, assume that maybe there's a lot of rudeness in China, and that, you know, the people aren't very friendly, and actually we have not found that at all. Danny and I like to stay in places for as long as we can. We were in certain cities for over 2 weeks, and we'd go back to the same restaurants over and over again, especially for breakfast. You know, we'd find a place we liked, and the kindness that we were met with from the owners, or from other locals, or from other people who were eating at this place was really, really lovely. They would learn maybe the things that we liked most, the things that we learnt most often. They were really happy to see us and have a chat, even if we couldn't communicate very well, because my Chinese is quite poor and their English was often even poorer. But actually they're really nice moments that we've been able to share with people. So we spent almost a week in my friend's mum's tiny little village where she lives, and I swear half of the village invited us to dinner or to lunch. I'm vegan, and that wasn't a problem for them. Nothing was too much. They were just so happy to show off the really good food that they had, and they wanted to chat with us, to find out about us, we could find out about them, and that was really nice as well. Yeah, that was definitely one of the more special times that we had, when we really got to just sit down and spend some time with people. One of the other things that really surprised us this second time around that we went to China is how amazing the train system is. Seriously, China's train system has exploded in the last few years. The fast trains are going at over 300 kilometers an hour. It's really super fast. It's really super efficient. The trains are generally really clean as well, and it's amazing. And actually we do have a blog post about travelling in trains in China, and so I'll put a link in the description below, and then you can read up a little bit about that, some of our top tips and tricks. But honestly, the trains in China are incredible. We've seen so much beauty just from sitting in a train, which has been really cool. When we've been in sleeper trains, we've been able to lie back, look out the window. Our longest train journey was right from the east of China in Hefei all the way to the southwest corner in Kunming, and we were on the train for 30 hours. And that sounds like a really long time, but actually the train journey was really great. It didn't feel like a particularly long time. We had lots of snacks with us and lots of drinks with us, but if you don't, there are people going up and down the train selling fruit and drinks and pot noodles and all of the other essentials that you might need. So that's it. That's my top things that might surprise you about China. There are definitely things that surprised us, either the first or the second time that we went. If we've missed anything out, which I'm sure we have, then pop it down in the comments below and let everyone else know what else they can expect. And if you're going to China soon, let us know, and let us know if there's anything else that you want to know that we can maybe write about or blog about or talk about, and we will try our best to do that. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.